Thank you so much. We gather this morning to celebrate the life of Jim McDonald. It's a time to look around, to appreciate who he was in each one of our lives, and to see how many people he has touched through his life here. It's a sad event, but it's something that we begin together. My name is the Reverend Pamela Mansick. I serve the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale. My pronouns are she and hers. We begin our rituals with lighting the chalice. As we light the chalice, it represents the light that burns inside each and every one of us. So I'm going to invite you to say our chalice lighting words this morning with me as I light our chalice. A human life is sacred. It is sacred in its being born. It's sacred in its living. It is sacred in its dying. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on this morning. As we begin our time together, I'm going to invite Heidi Patterson to come up and offer our first reading, which is by Mary Oliver. It's titled Upstream. Thank you, Heidi.
Sometimes the desire to be lost again, as long ago, comes over me like a vapor. With growth into adulthood, responsibilities claimed me, so many heavy coats. I didn't choose them, I don't fault them, but it took time to reject them. Now in the spring, I kneel. I put my face into the packet of violets, the dampness, the freshness, the sense of everness. Something is wrong, I know it, if I don't keep my attention on eternity. May I be the tiniest nail in the house of the universe, tiny but useful. May I stay forever in the stream. May I look down upon the windflower and the bull thistle with the greatest respect.
Thank you so much, Heidi. Did you want to come up now? Yeah, thank you. We'll have a second selection, Song of the Birds. I'd like to invite Bonnie to come up to do our next reading, Wild Geese.
You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft part of your soul love what it loves. Tell me about your despair and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clear blue sky, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to you in your imagination. It calls to you like the wild geese, over and over, announcing your place in this wonderful world.
Thank you. Over and over again, it calls to you, announcing your place in the family of things. Jim was deeply embedded in this family of life, this family of our church for sure, where we loved him and will miss him deeply. What do you say when we gather on this day? How do you say goodbye to someone so young, so vibrant, so much yet to live for? I find myself remembering the words of Edna St. Vincent Millay in her poem titled Dirge Without Music. She wrote, "I am not resigned to the shutting away of loving hearts in the hard ground. Gently they go, the beautiful, the tender, the kind. Quietly they go, the intelligent, the witty, the brave. I know, but I do not approve. I am not resigned." I can't imagine anybody here is resigned today to saying goodbye to Jim. We expected to have his shy smile, that twinkle in his eye, the gentle, kind, thoughtful man spirit with us for such a very long time. He expected to be able to watch his beautiful children grow, watch Alex graduate from high school and Katie from college, and then to beam with pride as each new chapter of their lives unfolded, and to be there when times got hard. And we know in our heart of hearts that parents are not supposed to bury their children. There's so many emotions that tear at the heart, so many things that don't feel natural about today. Today we are bereft. And there's this movement from a place of being bereft to that. There's a movement of the place where Jim is alive and present and loving all of those who love him into a place where he is no longer there. And they say that's what grief is. Grief is that process that moves us from one reality that may not have been perfect, but was a reality that we really appreciated, into another reality that will also not be perfect and maybe a little less so, because Jim will not be part of it. And grief is that work that we do that move us from one reality to the other. And the only thing we can say is it is never an easy process. It's not straight. It's not predictable. The only thing that we know for certain is it's going to hurt. And it's going to go on much longer than anybody anticipates it will. But here's the thing. Death is hard and unexpected, no matter when it comes, but especially as it comes now, losing Jim this way. But death is an ever-present part of every one of our lives. Each of us sitting here will one day join Jim in his passage to the other side, whatever that might be. And his untimely and heartbreaking passing reminds us to pay attention to the life that we have in front of us, to enjoy it, to savor it, to celebrate what is good and true and beautiful while we are still here. For Jim, the trials and the challenges and the tribulations that are part of every life and that were part of his own, they're over. He doesn't have to struggle anymore. But we are here, and we still do have to struggle. And in the midst of all that struggle, we celebrate what is beautiful and what is true. And we celebrate Jim. We celebrate what he did and what he brought to this life. We remember his joy in learning and growing with Katie and Alex. We appreciate his generosity of spirit, always being willing to lend a hand, always being willing to volunteer, to show up, to do what needed to be done, and to do it without asking for any thanks, just showing up, just doing what Jim did. with his kindness and his gentle presence. We know that as sad as we are now, Jim will remain in our hearts. That while he's not here in this reality sharing the years spinning past, he will continue to live on in both the love that he gave to every single person here and in the love that we held for him. That part can never be taken away. Death is never easy, and this next bit of time is going to be especially difficult. But Jim will walk with us through all of it. And I think he will urge us to embrace our time here. Encourage us to live and engage with life as fully as possible and give it our very best, just like he did. Because none of us know how long we have. We do know that when we show up, we leave behind a lot of love in our wake. And we know Jim left a tremendous amount of love, and that love will have to carry us through. I invite you now to join me in just a short moment of prayer. Spirit of all that is whole and holy, be with us today. Offer consolation and support, strength and perseverance to everyone who loved Jim. Remind us that each life holds a finite number of breaths, an uncounted, though limited, number of heartbeats. We bless this day to say we have shared our breath, our love, and our lives with Jim McDonald. Beloved Father, Son, brother, uncle, friend. Let us walk forward together, holding his light, holding his love, and continuing to shine that love and light and beauty out into a world that needs it so much. Amen. I'm going to invite Jim's friend Dave to come up and offer his remembrance of Jim right now. And after he's finished, we'll open it up to any stories that you might have that you want to share. Any memories, any poignant anecdotes, any way that you feel you would like to honor Jim. But first, here's Dave.
I'm Dave, and I've known Jim through church for quite a while. And I got to see Katie and Alex grow up in the church. My mother used to say when my brothers and I were goofing off, what kind of mother will people say you have? How do you reflect on your parents? And I would always think, oh, come on, Mom, if we're goofing off, people would just say, those kids are monsters. They won't say, what's their mother like? But as I've grown, I've seen that people really do reflect their parents. And when kids are goofing off, there's always that look like, man, look over at the parents. You can see what kind of parent Jim was and Liz is from getting to know Katie and Alex. I know Jim from church. I've also known him from working in the woods. I work on a project with the Cook County Forest Preserve District, cutting down non-native trees and shrubs and pulling invasive weeds, collecting native plant seeds so that native plants have room to grow and more habitat for small animals and pollinators. And Jim came out a lot. He was a regular volunteer. And this is a particular kind of work. You have to get down on your knees, turn your back on your friends, and cut wood for hours. And Jim remarked the one time that when your arms are involved like that, your mind is free to roam, and you could spend the morning solving the problems of the world, or just Zen-like concentrate on what you're doing. I'm cutting a tree, I'm cutting a tree, I'm cutting a tree. And that was a a great value that he got, and I understood from that as well. And he would bring his kids. And Katie and Alex, you'd see them there a lot, and they didn't seem to be there just to humor Dad. It seemed like they were getting committed and really enjoying themselves. When my son was little, I brought him out to work days, and he would come a few times, and he would bring a friend once in a while, and that was fun for a while, but he got bored, and it was too much work, and you know, he sort of faded away. If there was anything he could do on a Saturday morning, he'd prefer to do that. But I didn't get that impression from Katie and Alex. It seemed like they were there, and he was imbuing them with that same spirit of not only making the world better, but creating a space for yourself while you're doing it. Our next workday, our regular workdays are the first Saturday of every month, so our next workday is next Saturday, April 2nd, starting at 9 o'clock at Bemis Woods. It's about a mile from here. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow, if not next Saturday, sometime soon, we'll see Alex and Katie there. And if you don't believe me, you're welcome to come. First Saturday of every month, we supply the tools and the snacks. I once asked Jim if he had any pharmacy stories. And he said, you know, TV has a lot of shows about a lot of jobs. There are cop shows and lawyer shows and doctor shows, and people who have those jobs will always say, oh, if they did a show about my particular job, nobody would watch it. You know, my job is mostly all routine, punctuated by moments of utter stress. Nobody would watch that. Hollywood has to exaggerate my job so that it's interesting. And Jim said, they don't even have shows about pharmacists. Not even Hollywood can make my job fascinating. But he did have two stories. One he's not in. It's I think, a pharmacy legend. There were some guys in farm school who decided to make liquor. They were going to make some moonshine. And they got some yeast and fermented, and they got a still, and they made some moonshine. And they drank it, and it tasted okay, and it had a kick, and that was great. And there was just a bit, so they said, well, you know, let's keep on, and they went out to the bars. And the one guy, he didn't drink much, and he was kind of done for the night. So he said, you guys go ahead, I'm going to bed, and he went to bed. And the other guys went out, and they made a whole night of it. And Jim explained that when you make alcohol in a still, not only do you get ethanol, which is what comes in booze and you can drink, you also get methanol, which is called wood alcohol, and that's the stuff that kills you. That's the stuff that makes you go blind. And you have to be careful, and if you don't do it exactly right, you end up with too much methanol in the product. And he explained me the chemistry of how the two counteract each other and how they're created, and the biology of how the liver handles everything and the optic nerve and everything. I don't remember all the science, but what I got was that if the concentration of methanol is too high in comparison to how much ethanol is, that's when it's dangerous. So all these guys went out to the bars, and they consumed lots of ethanol, and they were okay. And the poor guy who stayed at home, he's the guy who went blind. But apparently he finished his studies, became a pharmacist, and ended up being the director or the president of the Pharmaceutical Association. So it's a story that's sort of tragic, but sort of inspirational. And it was a story that he liked sharing, because there's a bit of humor there too. The story that he told that he was in is that at one point he was traveling from store to store, doing pharmacy stuff. And he said he would go to neighborhoods that were very economically disadvantaged, and people there really did have to choose between food and medicine. And lots of people were on Medicaid or Medicare, and if they weren't, they wouldn't be able to afford their medication. And he said, we don't have a health care crisis in this country. We have the best health care, we have the best medicines in the world. It's a paying for health care problem that we have. And he said he would go to the wealthier neighborhoods, and you know, people had no trouble paying for any sort of pharmacy there. And from time to time, somebody would come in, and there was a medicine that cost $1,000, you know, but with insurance, it would be a $50 copay. And somebody would come in and the insurance papers weren't just right. So, you know, you're gonna have to contact your insurance company, you're gonna have to fill out this extra form. And the person would say, oh no, that's okay, just put it on my bill, I'll pay it. And you'd say, but it's $1,000. It's $50 if you do the insurance. And he said, it's okay, it's not worth it. He said he much preferred being in the places where people struggled and they appreciated what they had, and they had to find ways to balance food and family and pharmacy. Those were the people that he preferred to treat and dispense to. My mother used to say, what will people think about your parents? I think that Jim, in living his values, made sure that his values made an impact on his kids.
Thank you so much, Dave. Now it's your turn. I'd like to invite anybody who has another memory that they would like to share. No, whoever would like to come up first, come on. Let people know who you need to. Let people know who you need to. Okay, thank you.
I'm Leanne, I'm Jim's sister, and this is a poem that I think Jim would have really liked to share. Farewell, my friends. It was beautiful as long as it lasted, the journey of my life. I have no regrets whatsoever said, the pain I'll leave behind, those dear hearts who love and care, and the strings pulling at the heart and soul, the strong arms that held me up when my own strength let me down. At the turning of my life, I came across good friends. Friends who stood by me even when time raced me by. Farewell, farewell, my friends. I smile and bid you goodbye. No, shed no tears for me, for I need them not. All I need is your smile. If you feel sad, think of me, for that is what I'll like. When you live in the hearts of those you love, remember then, you will never die.
Thank you, Leanne.
I'm Jim's mom, Sandy, and I'd like to say Jim was a good, kind person, a loving son, a wonderful father. He not only loved Katie and Alex, but enjoyed being with them and doing things together, enjoying their mutual love of nature. Katie and Alex were the joy and light of his life. Dear son, we wish you safe journey. You will always be remembered with love in our hearts. As time moves on, we shall keep memories of you close and dear. Those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day, unseen, unheard, but always near, still loved, still missed, and very dear.
Thank you. Yeah. That's okay. You can come up here.
I'm Shelley Thorne. I went to Quincy with Jim, and I have just a couple very quick stories. The first one is about the sound. When you are a kid laying in bed at night by yourself and it's dark, on occasion you kind of make the sound that sounds like this. Everybody does it. We don't necessarily talk about it. except for the group at Quincy, who then realized that we had all done this thing. And every once in a while we'd bring it up and it's like the sound and everybody would laugh and it was so funny. Well, Jim told me one time he was walking down the hallway in his house, whatever. He kind of stopped short of the room the kids were in, and either one or both of them was making the sound. And it was like, he didn't walk in on them, he didn't say anything to them, he kind of backed off, and he's like, he told me this in a phone call. It was like, yes, another generation. I just thought it was amusing, it was fun. Again, everybody talks about how much he loved his children. He loved those children. The other story I have, just in case anybody in the family was wondering what that lavender thing was about, it's about the lavender sweater. So I was at school with Jim like 86, 87. At that time, shaker knit sweaters were all the rage and everybody was wearing them. Jim had one. It was this beautiful lavender blue color and it was relatively new. We were at his school apartment, a whole bunch of people. He was sitting on the kitchen table. There was a lit candle on the kitchen table. He, all of a sudden, jumps up, runs all the way across the apartment into his room. And then somebody says, "Is something burning?" It's like, I think it's Jim. So, this poor man, yes, probably burned a hole about that big in the back of his sweater. There were little char marks. Luckily, he didn't burn himself. He ended up with like the equivalent of a sunburn. But it was just like, I don't know what it is about that story, but I'll never, ever forget that. That's what the lavender is. I think about that a lot when I see lavender. Anyway.
Any other stories that you'd like to share? Those are some wonderful memories of Jim. I'm sure he's chuckling. We now have a photo montage that his family created of him, so I will share that with you.
And only you could know the pain. You weren't afraid to face the devil. You were no stranger to the rain. So go rest high. Son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven a shouting love for the Father and the Son. Oh, how we cried the day you left us. We gathered round your grave to grieve. Wish I could see the angels' faces when they hear your sweet voice sing. So go rest high on that mountain, 'cause son, you work on earth is done. Go to heaven a shouting, love for the Father and the Son.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
So go rest high on that mountain, 'cause son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven a shouting, love for the Father and the Son. Go to heaven a shouting, love for the Father and the Son.
I invite you now to join me in a responsive reading. Your response as we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of sky and the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. I invite you to sing a hymn that is very special to this congregation. It's Spirit of Life. You're going to have accompany it to help us with the words, and the words will be on the screen. And church members, sing out loudly, because you know this. As our time together draws to a close, we end with these words by Nancy Woods. And she writes, "You shall ask, what good are dead leaves? And I will tell you, they nourish the sore earth. And you will ask, what reason is there for winter? And I will tell you, to bring about new leaves. And you shall ask, why are the leaves so green? And I will tell you, because they are rich with life. You shall ask, why must the summer end? And I will tell you, so that the leaves can die." Thus ends the reading. We're going to close our time together with another piece by Jean. And you are all invited to join the family afterwards downstairs for a short reception. And our very final words are from Lori Laban. "Birth is a miracle of love and courage, bringing light into the world. Death is a loss of light, but no less an act of courage. For we are born from and return to mystery. May love and mystery hold each of you in the days to come." We extinguish our flame, but it will continue to burn brightly in each of your hearts.